the second war, which is the one we're financing and arming Israel to carry out in the destruction of Gaza. We spoke in November about a month into the war, and obviously you were making a lot of observations about how atrocious that war was at the time. We're now 4 months into the war, 3 months later. Things have gotten cataclysmically and exponentially worse. Where do we stand in this war, and what now do you think Israel's actual objectives are? They're saying this war is going to last for several more months. They just rejected Hamas's counteroffer for a ceasefire. Netanyahu seems intent on continuing this. What do you see as the driving motives here?
Well, I think the key event since we last talked was the ruling of the International Court of Justice, which said that there are plausible grounds that Israel is committing genocide. And that means, by the way, that America is complicit in a genocide, if that's what the ultimate finding is. And I think that there are good reasons for the court to have made that ruling. When you find genocide, it's both a matter of the incredible destruction and cruelty on the ground. 2 million people displaced, around 30,000 dead, 70% of whom are women and children. We watched the demolition of universities, of schools, of mosques, of hospitals, of apartment buildings before our eyes with gleeful members of the Israeli Defense Forces. And the second part of a genocide finding is intent. And there, the intent is that the Israeli cabinet doesn't disguise what they want. They want the Palestinians gone. They want ethnic cleansing. If it means death because the Palestinians won't leave, so be it. And they don't hide this. Now, what is amazing, actually, is that since this ICJ ruling, Israel hasn't changed an iota, not a bit. It continues the killing, it continues the slaughter, it continues the murder in cold blood, and now it says it's going to assault the south of Gaza, where it told the Palestinians to leave for safety. And the statements by the cabinet have remained absolutely as vile and genocidal as before, so they don't even take note, well, maybe we should be a little bit careful. Not anything like that. They had a big event in Tel Aviv, where the settlers are saying we're going to resettle Gaza. They have to leave. This is Greater Israel. And there it is before our eyes. Now, today, it's incredible to watch Secretary Blinken. He wrings his hands. He says, oh, yes, it would be better with a two-state solution. That's what the Saudis are telling us and what we know. But this is up to the Israelis. It's saying as clear as can be, Israel runs American policy. Okay, that's it.
Even though we finance them.
Yes.
It's the most bizarre
exactly.
dynamic.
I know we provide the munitions, we provide the financing, we're asking for emergency aid, and Blinken's saying there's nothing we can do. It's all up to the Israelis.
Well, let me ask you, the one thing that has changed since the ruling is that there was one group doing actual work in delivering basic humanitarian assistance, nowhere near sufficient, but still some, to the Gazan population that has been on the brink of starvation and now suffers the genuine prospect of mass famine, which was the UN Rescue Aid Agency. And Israel just decided to accuse it of having 12 members who participated in October 7th and being linked to Hamas. And now the United States and multiple other European countries that have been funding the destruction of Gaza are now saying we're going to cut off funding to the only aid agency that's actually doing something on a substantive level to keep the people in Gaza from just dying in mass numbers from treatable infections and starvation. What do you make of those accusations?
Complicity in genocide. Even if the accusations were true on their face, and we have not the slightest idea whether they are, and people that have seen the dossier supposedly say that it's absolutely absurd. But even if it were true on the face, the reaction to cut off an aid agency at this moment with hundreds of thousands on the brink of starvation is absolutely complicity in a genocide. So, I don't know what they think they're getting away with. The whole world's eyes are on this. There will be a report by South Africa shortly again to the court. There's nothing hidden in any of this. Of course, being held accountable for genocide doesn't stop the genocide by itself, but the American leaders are absolutely complicit in this, and the senators like Schumer, who just give them the money, doesn't matter, are complicit in this too. Doesn't anybody speak a word of honesty anymore? This is really the question. Kirby, who is the spokesman every day, the one that said that the accusations were completely meritless when South Africa first made the application and then dismissed the court's ruling, brushed it aside in one moment, does not say a word of truth on any day. And this is how we are right now. Of course, the world's extremely dangerous when it is so miserably governed, and when the United States, which is a big military power, is absolutely without decency and limits.
Well, last question, because I know you have to leave. But speaking of being miserably governed and dangerous, the United States, the Biden administration said at the start that their primary objective was to avoid an escalation in the Middle East. Obviously, that's failed. We are now repeatedly bombing Yemen with no congressional debate or authorization, continuously bombing targets both in Iraq and Syria that we say are linked to Iran. We've had 3 of our own troops killed in a military base in Jordan that very few people knew existed. What do you see as the risk of regional escalation now?
Look, Israel's policy is not even about Hamas. Israel's policy, explicitly, it's the policy of the cabinet ministers. It's their stated intentions every day. It is the core of the policy platforms of the parties in power, is control over all of Palestine. This is not a secret. And they want the Palestinians to leave, or they'll die, or something else. With that approach, there can be no peace. There can be no avoidance of escalation. And the United States says, well, it's up to Israel. We're just going to keep going along with it. This is, you can't even understand how pathetic this is. The United States, we have some choices. But this administration apparently just says, no, they're not our choices. They're Israel's choices. Well, the choices that Israel makes are absolutely leading to wider and wider war. And we know that it's no secret that these religious national extremists in Israel want the United States to go to war with Iran. So if that's what Israel wants, is that what we're going to do? That's what we're going to find out.